No child should ever have to bury their parents. Yet, at only 10 years old, David stood beside his mother's grave with tears streaming down his face. His father had died years earlier, and now his mother was gone too. The little boy who once had a family suddenly had no one to call his own. As relatives whispered among themselves about who would take responsibility for him, David silently prayed that someone would not abandon him. Among all the relatives, only his mother's elder sister stepped forward, though she was already struggling to provide for her own children. She opened her heart and welcomed David into her home. She promised herself that as long as she lived, the boy would never feel like an orphan again. She clothed him, enrolled him in school, and loved him just as she loved her own children. Years passed, and David grew into a bright young boy. His aunt worked tirelessly, often sacrificing her own comfort, so every child in the house could eat and go to school. She celebrated his birthdays, cared for him when he was sick, and corrected him whenever he made mistakes. To everyone around him, she wasn't just his aunt, she had become the mother he had lost. As a teenager, David showed great promise. His teachers praised his intelligence, and his aunt often thanked God for how far he had come. She dreamed of seeing him graduate, build a successful career, and become an example to others. She believed all her sacrifices would one day be rewarded. But everything began to change when David started spending time with a group of reckless friends. They mocked him for obeying his aunt. One day, one of them laughed and said, "Why do you let that woman control you? She's not even your real mother." Those words echoed in David's mind. Slowly, he began to see his aunt not as the woman who raised him, but as someone who had no right to correct him. David's attitude changed completely. Whenever his aunt advised him, he responded with anger. "You're not my mother," he shouted one day. "You can't tell me what to do." Those words pierced her heart. She tried to remind him that everything she did was out of love, but he refused to listen. Respect turned into resentment, and peace disappeared from the home. Soon, David stayed out all night, stole money from the house, and surrounded himself with people who encouraged his bad behavior. His aunt prayed constantly that he would change. She pleaded with him to think about his future, but every attempt to guide him was met with insults and threats. The gentle boy she once knew seemed to have vanished. One evening, after another serious incident, his aunt made a difficult decision. She told David that he could no longer continue living under her roof if he refused to change. She explained that she loved him too much to watch him destroy himself and endanger the rest of the family. Instead of accepting her words, David became furious. Blinded by anger, David confronted his aunt. He believed she had no authority over him because she was not his biological mother. During the heated argument, he tried to seriously harm her. Hearing the screams, neighbors rushed into the house and intervened before the situation became even more tragic. The police were called, and David was taken into custody. As the police led David away, he looked back and saw the woman who had sacrificed years of her life raising him. She was shaken and injured, yet tears filled her eyes, not because she hated him, but because she never imagined the little boy she had rescued would one day turn against her. For the first time, David began to understand the weight of what he had done. Sitting alone in his cell, David replayed his childhood in his mind. He remembered every meal she provided, every school fee she paid, every hug, every prayer, and every sacrifice. He realized that he had allowed the wrong voices to replace love with hatred. The regret was overwhelming, but he could not undo the choices he had made. Life teaches us that not everyone who loves us shares our blood. Sometimes, the people who sacrifice the most deserve the greatest respect. Never allow bad company to turn your heart against those who genuinely care for you. Gratitude, humility, and self-control can build a beautiful future, while pride, anger, and bad influences can destroy everything in a single moment.